What if Brexit didn't just hurt the economy, but made your next meal a luxury item? Let's talk about that one. Imagine a country famous for its rainy weather, its tea obsession, and its absolute refusal to refrigerate eggs, and suddenly facing a crisis about the one thing no one can live without, and that's food. Well, that's exactly what happened in the United Kingdom after Brexit. And you might think, oh, come on, the UK survived rationing in World War II. Surely they can handle a few trade changes. And normally, you would be right. Except this time, things were a bit different. Because Brexit didn't just shake up trade deals or cause political chaos. It exposed something much deeper, much scarier, and much more British than anyone expected. It cracked open the food system itself, and today we're going to take a brutally honest look at how Brexit peeled back the wallpaper on the UK's food security, and trust me, what's underneath isn't pretty. Now, before Brexit, the UK's food scene operated under this delicate little web spun across Europe. You want safe lettuce in January? Thank the Spanish farmers and EU food regulations. You want cheap chicken nuggets for a fiver? Say cheers to frictionless trade. And you want all the weird artisan cheese you can eat without worrying about listeria? Yeah, that's what Europe's doing too. But then came 2016, a referendum, a few buses with big promises about NHS funding, and suddenly the UK was hurtling toward food independence like a teenager, insisting they can cook dinner without setting off the smoke alarm. But spoiler alert, the smoke alarm is now a regular feature in the British kitchen. And one of the biggest hits came to food standards. Before Brexit, the UK was bound by EU rules ensuring that food had to be safe, properly labelled, traceable and tested. And after Brexit, well, the UK technically had freedom. Freedom to make their own rules, freedom to sign new trade deals, freedom to decide if chlorine-washed chicken was a culinary innovation or a national tragedy. And guess what? Freedom comes with consequences. Trade deals now meant cheaper food could be imported from places with lower standards. Think hormone beef, think pesticide-loving produce, think products that make a Twinkie look like health food. And meanwhile, British farmers got caught in the crossfire. They lost some of their subsidies, faced stricter environmental rules without enough compensation, and had to compete against cheaper imports from places where animal welfare laws are basically a polite suggestion. Oh, and there's the labor shortage too. Because remember all those seasonal workers who used to come over from Europe to pick strawberries and harvest lettuce? Yeah, turns out they weren't just there for the weather. They were essential. Without them, crops literally rotted in the fields. Hundreds of tons of food wasted because nobody was there to pick it. And food prices? Up. Way up. Not immediately in 2020, but gradually, steadily, like a slow creeping realization that no, you cannot afford a full English breakfast every day unless you remortgage your house. And food banks have seen record use. Demand for processed cheap foods has skyrocketed. And that dream of everyone in Britain eating 5 portions of fruit and veg a day? Yeah, good luck with that. When avocados are £2 each and cucumbers are a luxury item. But let's zoom out a bit. This isn't just about Brexit causing a few empty shelves in Sainsbury's. It's about the structural vulnerability Brexit revealed. The UK is deeply dependent on imports for its food, especially fresh fruits and vegetables. Self-sufficiency? Well, it's hovering at about 60%, and that number isn't going up anytime soon. If anything, it's getting worse. Because here's the really fun part. Post-Brexit, the UK shifted its agricultural priorities, not just toward food production, but toward broader land use goals. Carbon capture, renewable energy, new housing, which, don't get me wrong, sounds very responsible and futuristic. But when prime farmland is being rewilded or developed and farmers are offered grants to plant trees instead of carrots, you start to wonder who is exactly supposed to be growing dinner. And meanwhile, a weird two-tier food system is emerging. High-quality premium British food exported abroad where it fetches top dollar, and lower-quality cheaper imports left for domestic consumers. Well, congratulations, Britain. You played yourself. And let's not forget the global context didn't help either. COVID-19, the war in Ukraine, global market instability. They all piled on and blurring the lines between what's a Brexit problem and what's just bad luck. But researchers using mountains of data and over 100 sources still pointed firmly at Brexit as a major player in reshaping the UK's food policies and security landscape, and not for the better. In fact, Brexit accelerated new neoliberal models in food policy. Heard of neo-developmentalism? It's the trendy term for when governments chase economic growth with free market sprinkled with just a hint of state intervention. And eco-extractivism? That's when land gets hyper-focused for specific uses like carbon offsetting or industrial agriculture while ignoring local food needs. In other words, it's economic strategy over food sovereignty, profit over public health, and global competitiveness over your nan being able to buy affordable tomatoes. And while the government talks a big game about sovereignty and taking back control, and in reality, it looks a lot more like handing over control to market forces, while everyday Brits just hope they can still afford dinner next month. Now, there are some efforts to fight back. Campaigns for a legal right to food, calls for stronger food standards, and pushes for more domestic food production. But these are early days, and changing course on a national food system is like trying to turn a container ship with a canoe paddle. And it's going to take time and effort, and honestly, probably a few more national scandals to really push change through. So next time someone says Brexit was about getting control back, ask them if they're enjoying their imported, not yet chlorinated chicken sandwich. We'll talk about that very soon maybe. But ask them if their local farmers are thriving. Ask them if they feel secure knowing the country imports almost half its food. Because Brexit didn't just change immigration or trade deals. It exposed how incredibly fragile the basics of lives really are when political dreams crash headfirst into economic reality. And when the supermarket shelves are half empty and the food bank queues stretch round the block. You might find that sovereignty tastes a lot less like victory and a lot more like a very, very dry sandwich. So thanks for watching, and if you found this video eye-opening, make sure to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss more outside views on the fallout from political disasters dressed up as freedom. See you next time, and the next video is right here in the end screen.